Recent bank failures beg the question, what is a safer place than a bank to have your money? In this educational episode, I'm going to address the topic in question. The second key element of a prudent investment is safety. What does that mean? There are two different categories under safety. One is safety of the institution. I'm going to talk about that, but also safety of principle. So get ready. I'm going to give you insights, maybe that you've never had before, about having a safe place to put your money. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for just under 5 decades. I've been around the block a long time. I turned 71 here in a few months. I started in 1974. And I've noticed through my career, a lot of times when the market goes down, when we suffer from recessions, what happens to most people, because they're sort of ignorant of some of the strategies that they can use to make themselves recession-proof. When I first started in 1974, we had a major recession in 1980. And back then, there were a lot of people that suffered, and in Houston, Texas alone, about 16,000 homeowners lost their homes in foreclosure because their homes went down in value. The supply of homes on the market was great, the demand was less, and so they lost their real estate equity, but they also lacked liquidity. They did not have safety of principle. They thought, really, this real estate is a good investment. Well, I learned a lesson that sometimes whatever your house is worth, my personal residence in 1980 was valued at $305,000. And less than 2 years later, I couldn't even sell it for $195,000. And so even investments like real estate do not give you safety of principle. So let's talk about safety and how important it is with your serious cash. This is money that you've earmarked for long-term goals such as retirement planning, maybe college funding for your kids and grandkids. Maybe it's working capital for your business or real estate management or emergency funds or what have you. So let's talk about the safety of the institution, first of all. When we set aside money in institutions, most people think that banks and credit unions are safe. Why? Because they have FDIC insurance, federally deposited insurance. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation is FDIC. But a lot of people don't realize, when did that come about and why did it come about? It's because of the Great Depression, when a lot of people, they went to get money out of their banks, and there was a run on banks. And banks can't just hurry and get cash. They don't keep your money in a vault. They loan it back out again. They can't call all those loans due, but before the Depression, they actually could. They could call your mortgage due anytime they wanted, and that's why people would celebrate the day they could burn their mortgage. Well, after that, they could no longer do that. But the federal government stepped in and they said, we will insure deposits up to a certain amount. And they've raised that limit. But recently, with the bank failures of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, for President Joe Biden to come in and say, we're going to cover and insure deposits even in excess of $250,000. Why did he do that? Well, because he knew on that Monday morning, if he didn't do that, there was millions of dollars that was set to cover payroll. And so he wanted to put people at ease, and he says the federal government will back you up. What a lot of people don't realize is there is no way that the federal government can back all deposits in all banks in this country. That is trillions and trillions of dollars, and the federal government only collects about $3.5 trillion net after refunds in revenue a year. There's no way they can cover that. The only way they could cover that would be to take it from all the people who have maybe $20 trillion in IRAs and 401ks and tax them at 70, 80, or 90%. And by the way, that's probably what they would do. They will go and get the money from the people who have the money. That's another topic. But when we're talking about a safe place to put money, do you want the federal government to be the insurance company that insures your deposits. You know, FDIC technically went broke when they were bailing out the savings and loans because FSLIC didn't have enough money. And so people say, well, yeah, but the federal government has the power to print money or tax us, so I feel safe. Okay. Well, that's not where I consider to put my money, my serious cash. I like to bypass the middleman, the banks and the credit unions, and frankly, I put my money where banks and credit unions put some of their money for liquidity and safety. And so I put my money in the multi-trillion-dollar insurance industry, legal reserve insurance industry. That's not only the backbone of America, but the backbone of the world. And if you study history, you'll notice that in the Great Depression, banks closed. 40% never reopened again. Real estate dropped as much as 80%. There was not one single legal reserve insurance company that went under in the Great Depression. In 2008, we had 400 banks go under, 900 more were on the brink of going under. They were on what was called the watch list. Now, not one single legal reserve insurance company went under in 2008. We had American General that had lacked some liquidity. They couldn't call all their loans due to cover what that shortfall of cash flow was. And so for a temporary time period, they used TARP money in order to buy themselves enough time in order to wait until the mortgages matured and the bonds matured in order to handle it. But they weren't insolvent, okay? I had a client who died with a $2 million insurance policy right in the middle of when they were, quote, insolvent compared to what the media was reporting. And they paid out that $2 million death claim in 3 weeks. Bam. Because insurance companies cross-insure each other. If one has any trouble, the others swoop in and they have to ante up the percentage of the insurance they have in force in every single state. They cross-insure each other, which is safer than having insurance from the federal government because they don't collect enough in premiums to be able to cover all of that. And that's really the truth. And so I want my money where the legal reserve insurance industry cross-insures each other. So when we talk about legal reserve insurance companies, I'm very picky. There's thousands of them, but I put my money only in the top, 6 to 10 legal reserve insurance companies that offer my favorite financial vehicle, which is a properly structured, max-funded, indexed universal life insurance contract. Because not only is it in a safe institution that's rated, AA, AAA, compared to a lot of banks that are only rated BBB, because the difference between a AAA rated institution by S&P, or there's several rating agencies, compared to a BBB, is 6 notches higher in safety. And so I want to put my money in institutions that are ranked higher in safety than banks and credit unions. And frankly, this is where many banks and credit unions put 30 to 40% of their tier 1 assets for liquidity and safety, but also to have safety of principal. What's that? If I set aside $500 a month, $1,000 a month, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, I want that principal that I set aside to be safe from loss. I don't want it to be subject to a volatile stock market. I do not want to lose. That's one of Warren Buffett's rules of investing. Rule number 1, don't lose money. But he said, rule number 2 is don't forget rule number 1. Well, that's easier said than done unless you understand indexing. So indexing allows you to be able to make money when the economy's doing well, when the market goes up, but you will not lose a dime when the market crashes because your money is not invested or at risk in the market. It's called indexing. But I have safety of principle. If I set aside $100,000, $1 million, and the market drops down and loses, I will not lose one dime. I may not make much of anything that year, but I don't lose. And as soon as the market turns around, I start making money again. Does that sound too good to be true? Nope. It's a strategy called indexing. I'm not talking about an index mutual fund. What's the difference? People who had money in an index mutual fund, let's say in the Great Recession, let's say you accumulated $1 million nest egg in the year 2000 and you were wanting to retire. People who had their money in the market, in traditional IRAs or 401ks, they had to put off retirement 7 years because that $1 million nest egg dwindled down in value to about $600,000 from 2001 to 2003 after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. It took 4 years to come back to break even to where they had their million again in 2007. And then what happened in 2008? As Warren Buffett put it, he said, when the tide went out in 2008, it revealed who was swimming naked, is what he said. They weren't protected. And they saw that $1 million drop down to $600,000 again for the second time in a decade. And that happened in one single year. It took 4 years until 2012 before they made back that loss. And they barely had $1,046,800 to show for the million they started with 12 years earlier. People who used my favorite vehicle, which I call the laser fund, they did not lose during those down years. They may not have made very much, but they didn't lose. And at the end of 12 years, their million was worth $2.5 to $3 million, depending on how they diversified. If you want to learn how to not lose when the market goes down and how to make money when the market goes up and have a safer place for your money as far as the safety of the institution, but have safety of your principal, that you will not lose due to market downturns, any of the principal you have in there. But number two, any year you make money, that you just made becomes newly protected principal. You lock in your gains, okay? So that you don't lose in future years money you made in previous years. If this sounds too good to be true, it isn't. It's real. It's called indexing. That's a strategy. It's not an indexed fund. So I want you to learn. My most recent best-selling book is called The Laser Fund, How to Diversify and Create the Foundation for a Tax-Free Retirement. This is the 300-page book. It's been flying off of our warehouse shelves. I don't want you to miss out. It retails on Amazon for $20, plus you'd pay another, $9 or $10 in shipping and handling. I'll tell you what. You simply go to laserfund, laserfund.com, or click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I require a little bit of skin in the game, but I'll pay for the book, and I'll fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail. And it's actually 2 books in one. This side is about 200 pages with 14 chapters of charts and graphs and explanations. But if you're a right brain learner, you learn more by stories. You simply flip it over to this side. This is 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 chicken soup for the financial soul stories. If you want to use your whole brain, read both of these books. But claim your free copy now by going to laserfund.com and contribute a nominal amount, and I'll pay for the book. This is not about me. This is about you and your brighter future.